take this here. Hello.
Hello to you.
And thanks, Weasel, for inviting me. Okay. This first piece is called A Misuse of Power. I used to work as a checker at a grocery store, and I used to see certain women come in with their husband, and I could just tell things were not good. So this is for Miss Comstock. This is for Miss Rhodes, and this is for Deborah Ann. It's called Misuse of Power. The echoes of her cries were far younger than the voice she bore. A voice pieced together, weaving hard stains, heavy liquor, and soft attempts to bring it all to an end, hoping need would end need. I made my bed. I have to lie in it. Words on the cover of her hymnal, clutching her pillow. Her man, thin sheets that pulled off of her, thick layers of what it meant to be loved. Skin and backbone, muscles almost gone from the weight of it all. Numb from hot hands and cold heart. She hid her scars, collected the scabs, put them in jars for safekeeping, just in case he killed her while she was sleeping. At least she would have kept the lid on it all, wanting no one to pick her sores, post-mortem bleed her even more, wondering why she didn't end it all sooner. Blame would be all on her, letting a man stomp her like grapes, except there was a sour taste that disfigured her face, completely distorting her vision of self-love. A dull palette with regular glasses of crimson sorrow. Drink up. Courage never lived here, but no one else had to know. She crawled along with Bible forbid, never bending its spine. This is kind of autobiographical. It's called Homecoming. Child, there's a body bag and a toe tag with your name on it. Now, Big Mama don't threaten children, and it's illegal in the state of Texas to beat children unmercifully. But they didn't say anything about killing them in the line of duty. Now, there won't be nary time that you disrespect my house or my rules or swell up to me like you want to fight. This is the only warning you gon' get, because Big Mama ain't putting up with no S-H-I-T. Now go on in there and cut me a piece of that cake and get you some too. We still got some talking to do. I heard the car roar off. Stones and pebbles crushing, popping, sounding like too hot oil with raw chicken frying. Quick, it faded into nothing. I hadn't even set down my suitcase, handle choking my fingers purple, and I was hot and a little sticky in my coat. But I could already see Big Mama wasn't no joke. Yes, I was unexpectedly relieved to hear she would take my life. I didn't act right. Mother was dead, and Daddy said I wasn't his. Big Mama made it clear my life was hers. We ate almost the whole cake, homemade pineapple upside down with cherries filling the core, filling the holes where the core was taken. She really didn't have to say much else. The body bag and the toe tag were enough for me. I saw those used on TV. I believed her, and before long, she believed in me. Amazing what the fear of death, some cake, rules, and duty can do. And everywhere in the mix of those, a whole lot of love to her. To all the Big Mamas still providing care, thank you. say this thing to us, so this is about a story about that. It's called The Pastor's Poison. The whole always outlasts the pole. Words that rolled the ripened breath from Grandma's lungs, parted her lips carrying voice laced with an attempt to justify her motives. Barren and weary from consoling old possibles, reoccurring passions. Asking me for no opinion, she dressed herself with girdle, bra, perfume, and stockings, grinning a schoolgirl's crush, proceeds to cover them up with her Sunday's best. Her needs to impress her pastor stood oddly beyond the norm. Grandpa needed glasses, but he was hardly blind. At least he could always tell when I was lying. He had to notice. A single order of homemade donuts every Sunday, coupled with Bible study Wednesdays that started when the chickens got up. Papa never said a word. He sipped his Falstaff beer as if savoring 1787 Bordeaux Lafitte. Puffed his Lucky Strike like high-grade cannabis. Tended to his garden with a green thumb, everyone in. Planted in his eyes were upward sequence of a drowning man. He prayed and thirsted for life, whereas Grandma continued to fry donuts to save her soul. Perhaps that's what she was told, allowing the pastor to fill her with the Holy Ghost, confessing her deliverance of smoking ashes and lingering dust. Or maybe, just maybe, it was lust. The same lust drowning Grandpa, at times struggling to keep his weeds from his garden, struggling to sow what life he had in willing, yielding soil. Except Grandma stayed at the plow, hitched to a jackass with grandmother's on. The pastor's parson didn't kill weeds, but only doubled as their seeds. Papa's garden was crushed. I had a friend in 7th grade, and one time she came to science class. She told me she'd been kind of sneaking out, hanging with some boys and sneaking back in. And one day she came to class and she said, "Billie, my mother was crying." She said, "I got home and my mother was crying." And I said, "Okay." She said, "Well, I'm not sneaking out anymore. My mother was crying." And I really respected her for that, because I didn't ask her what she was doing with the boys. I pretty much knew that. But when she saw her mother crying, that made her stop. So this is called Defining Melissa. Beauty makes you catch your breath, hold it in flight. I saw my mother crying. Out of all the words she could have said, things she could have done, her tears filled with fears, out of her control, aged me. A blur of birthday parties faded in on fresh calendars, colors barely set, pages flipping until I made them stop. I didn't move that fast. For the first time, I realized loving can hurt and guilt can be forgiven. I promised her, dark or light, I would no longer sneak out of the house. I knew this was something she couldn't fix. I had to get a handle on this. Those boys would grow to be men. I didn't want to be a mother crying. Her tears dried and I cried, catching my breath in a different air, a new level of self-respect there, hovering over me, my mother's unconditional love, present, not proxy, always in attendance for me to look up to. This is old, but I don't think I've ever read it anywhere, but it's called Unity. This is like Rodney King old. And this is kind of like how it came about. It's called Unity. I say what's the problem? Why can't we just all get along? The differences between us are no basis for these wrongs. We are all God's children, one big family, but there's still one word that baffles us: unity. I know it's hard to remember we are all just one. The diversity is elusive, creating a deceptive kind. Be it wise to remember the earth is moving, not the sun. Really, sunrise, sunset, there are none. Well, but what about the similarities that seem to overlook? Feelings, heart, mind, caught up in this now called time. It's all too obvious we came from the same cook. We are all in the same pot, the spices within. Through love, sauteed in understanding, all hardened hearts will give in. So let's savor the flavor that diversity creates. Unity is to identify with the good cook and his taste, seeing his not-so-secret recipe in each other's face. Thank you. This is called Letty. Right, I love poems, so this is will you let me give this love I have for you to you or no? Samples are reserved for you as promotion for my potion with your breath as its base. So will you let me give this love I have for you to you or no? I was waking up this morning, you were staring me in the face. Even as I let loose my eyes, I had to shake to erase what I could hardly believe. I just wished I wasn't half asleep. So, will you let me give this love for you, to you, or no? You come in and take a piece of me every day, nibbling in on moments claimed and unclaimed. My time only recognized you as brand new, so it just keep giving you a redo every day, just me and you. So, will you let me give this love I have for you too, or no? I can't see into the future. Your essence walks with me in the now. If only I could make you feel me somehow. Would soak your steps inside of me, make my dream be what it seemed. Romance novels and happy beginnings attached to and continued endings. All in between, me having my way every day, brand new. This is like, I read this poem, you meet somebody, they're married, you can't really, but y'all feel each other, but you cannot do anything about that.
Cheat mine.
Pretty much.
You're not supposed to. Good.
I'm not supposed to. Exactly.
You can hide it, keep it hidden,
Oh man, I got you. Too shallow for that. I need it for it to be right. Okay, this is called an exact match bard. If what I channel from you is put into words that your ears would hear, vapor from my breath might penetrate a boundary, condense it into rain, quenching the thirst we both refuse to acknowledge. There's nothing lonely in being in a relationship, but then again, still lonely. When all the shine has left the penny, you realize you never really had that much in common. What you put up with turns into what you hated. Feeling stuck, only now you have a child to bring up. In quiet desperation, you try to do right. Put your heart on lockdown, watch piece by piece be chiseled off until there's nothing left but the motion. You know I have the potion to coexist, having no critical points with you. I like the same things you do, feel the same way you do, but boundary has a capital B, way too big for me. possibilities walking my way, I'll just call this a phase I've chosen to linger in on some rainy days, letting my mind ponder on what I would not see. This is about my aunt and how she always had frozen bread in the freezer. I hated frozen bread. So this is called Breaking Bread. I opened my aunt's freezer to retrieve a loaf of bread, wedged among pigs, chicken, cows, turkeys, and metal ashtrays. What I really wanted was some popsicles. She never had any. One time I thought she did, only to find she stuffed some hot dog wieners in an empty popsicle box. Said they wouldn't get freezer burnt that way. They never did. I hated previously frozen, thawed out, already cooked white bread. Only country folks did that. The texture and the taste were akin to the old freezer ice, wet, damp, and yucky. I asked her to put my bread on the side whenever she made a sandwich for me. She never did. So I never ate sandwiches at her house. I just left them on my plate and then gladly watched William swallow them down whole like a snake. He was a son, crazy, creepy, and much older. He always stayed in that back room until it was time to eat. She said when he left for boot camp, she kept everything in this room the same, but the doctor rearranged his head real bad. The war was too long. I thought one day she might make me eat the sandwich she made. She never did. When I got older, I brought my own popsicles. I always offered her some. There were times I would say, we can keep the box when you're done. We never did. This is a poem like something near and dear to my heart. It's called Death by Guacamole. In my obituary, please include the culprit of my demise. At my funeral, I see all the curvy people sitting on the front row with torn tortilla chip-shaped teardrops sliding from their eyes. Have the pastor mentioned it was my full intention to go the way I did. I did not try to find a support group, refused any and all help. Deeper and deeper I slid into my blessed abyss. Yes, I did. When they crack open my skull from the autopsy, they may want to bring some big spoons, or more practical, an industrial strength vacuum. Because they will tell from the sight and the smell of guacamole oozing from my dome that the rest of my body was also a place where guacamole called home.